Hey guys, welcome back to CodeMC. My name is Code. So today is episode, I believe this is 4 now. So we're moving right along here. Today we are going to work on a project that is going to be a kelp farm. So I am here underneath my old, my old base, which has some of my farms in it. And I have dug out this area here. And I think here is where I'm going to build a multi-tiered kelp farm. Now, I haven't decided 100% if I'm going to go lower yet. I need to see exactly how high each of these modules is going to be, but I don't need a ton of kelp. I need enough kelp to run my smelter and I guess anything else that I would need to run that requires fuel. I'm about as far as I can go in this section that I'm in right now, because just on the other side of that right there is water. It's water that direction. I'm underneath one of the wings of my base here. So I'm right close to the edge of some water all around here. So I got to kind of watch out for that. But this looks like a big enough area. I can fit at least probably 2, maybe even 3, maybe go down 1 or 2 more there. 3 layers of a kelp farm in here. And the idea is we build a kelp farm in here, and then we go over and we funnel all of that kelp over to this little opening right here. And we'll walk up here real quick and take a look at this. Come on now, there we go. And then I want to have probably 5 or 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, actually 7 is what I have the opening here for. I can slim that down if I need to. 5 or 6 smokers that will automatically smelt the kelp up into dried kelp. And then I'm going to take that dried kelp and we'll put it over here in some sort of storage for now. And then what I'm going to do is take those dried kelp and then craft them into dried kelp blocks. And then we can use those dried kelp blocks for fuel for our furnaces. So before we can even get started with any of that stuff, let's go over to the shopping district real quick and we got to make some purchases. Pistons, observers, ice, some glass, and I think we need some wood. Okay, I think we have enough stuff here to get started. I have some more glass in the smelter up there I can grab too if I needed. I have some kelp to get started. We have some sea lanterns for light to make sure everything's illuminated. And I think I'm going to build the majority of this building block-wise out of prismarine. I feel like it's a really good aquatic, looking block. So it kind of makes sense to build a kelp farm using that. The only thing I don't have in here that I need to go grab real quick is some dirt. Okay, returned with my dirt, because I forgot that. I always forget something. And then I guess what we're going to do is we'll get started and we'll run this as a time lapse. And I'm going to get started building this kelp farm. I don't know how long this is going to take, and I don't know exactly if I'm going to have to start moving some walls or stuff like that. But let's get this time lapse rolling. Then we can figure it out from there. right, here we are after about, oh geez, that was like 40 minutes of work, maybe an hour, something like that. So this is a basic kelp farm. I mean, this uses the observer and piston method. Obviously, there are flying machine methods and stuff like that to this as well. But the way this works is the kelp will not flow upwards in flowing water is one of the mechanics that's used here. And so what we have here is we have just grass with kelp on it, 1 block space, and then pistons and then observers. All of these pistons are linked together with redstone, and you can kind of see it right there. You can see so when one piston sees, it fires all of the pistons around it. And there is actually a reason for this, and I think it only goes so far, 15, something like that. I don't remember exactly how far the redstone travels, and will trigger these pistons. But that's the way, that's the mechanic that we kind of rely on here, because if it was individually firing each one, kelp has an age, and it will only age so far before it needs to be reset so that it will grow again, which is the reason you'll see kelp underwater that, not all of the kelp grow clear to the top of the surface in oceans and stuff like that. And so that's actually a little bit of a kind of a secret mechanic that we have to use. But so I just used fence gates here, and that holds the water back up against where the kelp is at, except for this top layer. And that top layer is allowed to, allows these here to kind of flow upwards and down in case anything does get kind of caught up in there. But the pistons push the kelp forward. You'll see it goes forward, and then it falls down because there's no water where these fence gates are at. And it falls down, it hits that water stream at the bottom. And this is kind of a doubled up water stream. You'll see I have a sign there and a sign there, random A. And the kelp flows through there, and any kelp that falls on top of that, because typically I would put like a sign or a slab there to keep the water from going where that ice is at. But I kind of have to double it up here because there is a row of kelp here, so that will fall on top of that. And if there's nothing there to kind of move it along, it will just stay there and eventually despawn. You can see it working there. It is getting a little bit caught up sometimes in some of these sections, but eventually it hits the flow and then keeps on going. The kelp then travels up this bubble column and then over to a smoker array. Right now I am manually fueling it, and I am just taking what's left and putting it down here into a single chest. I'm going to have a better system for this soon. I have to figure out how I'm going to do it. The problem is I have a little bit of a limited space because this dirt right here, that dirt is actually the floor of the little greenhouse that I have upstairs, which is where the melon and pumpkin farms are and the other farms I had shown you before. So yeah, this is the kelp farm. I am probably going to tier this up one more because it looks like I do have room to do this once more. That is 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks total. So I really have, 1, 2, 3, 4. I have enough. I could get like 1.5. I probably couldn't get a full 2 in there. And still have room to make sure I capture all of the kelp and stuff like that. So we're going to let this run for a little while. Even just by the time that I had put this bubble column in the time lapse here, I already have 48 dried kelp, which is not bad. If I AFK here overnight, I'm sure I would have quite a bit of dried kelp in here. The one issue that I have right now is come on now. There we go. I'm manually fueling this. So I just grabbed some coal from my storage here, and I just manually put some coal in here. I would eventually like to set this up so that I can drop dried kelp blocks into a hopper or a chest somewhere, and then those will automatically filter through and fill all of these smokers up with that dried kelp blocks or coal. Whatever I decide to fuel it with. I have a ton of coal. I've mined coal for a long time, and I haven't really used it except for in my super smelter. And in that thing, it's a mix between using bamboo, dried kelp blocks, and coal in that thing. So the bamboo works pretty well, except for when you're smelting items that are really, take a long time to smelt. And with the array that I have back on the other side over there, it doesn't tend to work really, really well. So that being said, this is my kelp farm now. I'm going to let this thing go. It's seeming to work pretty well. Every now and then I'll get something a little bit caught up right there. And a little bit of that is because there's water flowing down behind it, which is where that piston is at. And that's keeping that from moving. So what will happen is the next time this kelp right there grows up, it will make that a source block again, and then that will allow this kelp to flow the rest of the way up and then forward and then down. So this happens every now and then, and it's typically not too big of a deal because as soon as that kelp grows up, that becomes a source block again. The piston removes the source block whenever it pushes forward, so that becomes downward flowing water. But as soon as the kelp grows one more and comes across in front of that piston, it will recover, and you'll see it flow the rest of the way down. So it's not the most efficient. This is kind of a design of my own. I'm sure other people have done it, but I didn't really look towards a schematic or any kind of other design. I know there's another design that, Badamir here on our server uses that is actually set out one more, and he uses a little bit of a different mechanic to get the kelp going forward. And there it goes. That kelp grew up enough, and then it actually grew two at once, and which is why it triggered all at once, and so that ended up pushing it forward and down. So I typically am not going to lose a whole lot with this thing. And like I said, I can make this bigger. I plan to make it to one more row taller, and so that should supply me with a decent amount of kelp. I don't know how much I'm going to need. For the most part, I don't really need a whole lot. This is primarily just for feeding my smelters, and a little bit for the sake of building a farm. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. This is going to be it for today's episode. I really wanted to get this kelp farm done because I really don't have a good kelp farm to use to provide myself with fuel. So hopefully this provides enough dried kelp as I'm working outside and doing things like that to give me some dried kelp blocks, and that way I can feed my smelters. So that being said, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys on the next episode.